Democrats, they're in a full-blown panic after spending trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars on handouts. Our economy is on fire, but not in a good way. Breaking today, inflation hit a brand new 40-year high on top of last month's 40-year high. It's even worse, accelerating to 7.5% in January. As MarketWatch put it, quote, high inflation has jacked up the cost of food, gas, cars, rent, and there's little relief in sight. In fact, Americans are paying almost twice as much now to fill up their tanks under Biden than they were under President Trump. By the way, he predicted that. And according to the Wall Street Journal, gas prices will only continue to rise. Democrat Joe Manchin called it an inflation tax. It is, quote, draining the hard-earned wages on every American, and it's causing real and severe economic pain that can no longer be ignored. And get this, a new study from a senior economist at Moody's found the average American household is now spending an additional $276 a month because of record-setting inflation. The pain is obviously hurting the poor and the middle class in the country the hardest. And Obama's own economic advisor, Lawrence Summers, he sees a full-blown recession in his crystal ball is on its way. And today, a very frail-looking Joe, well, he made his way all the way down to Central Virginia. He really went far, where he was greeted by large crowds of protesters, including one man with a very special sign that reads, quote, build crack better. During a speech, Biden vowed to work like the devil to get these prices under control. Take a look.
I'm going to work like the devil to bring gas prices down, which I'm going to working to make sure that we keep strengthening the supply chains to bring the cost of energy and everything else and the goods that come to America down by helping the ports 24/7, by changing a whole range of things that, you know, what's happened with COVID has caused significant increase in prices in the supply chain. We're in a situation now where, you know, you should have peace of mind. I know food prices are up and we're working to bring them down. As I said, I grew up in a family where the price at the pump went up, you felt it, and I understand. But these things are necessities.
Joe's going to work like the devil himself, but just don't ask him any tough questions about it. Take a look.
Back in July, you said inflation was going to be temporary. I think a lot of Americans are wondering what your definition of temporary is.
Well, you're being a wise guy with me a little bit, and I understand that's your job.
Being a wise guy, a little testy, Joe, in case you're wondering, Biden's plan to curb inflation was to spend $3 trillion that in real money was over $5 trillion. And guess what? That we don't have any more socialist build back broke handouts. By the way, Manchin did him a favor. So did Sinema. Now, Chuck Schumer is terrified of a primary challenge from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is ready, willing to ram through any spending proposal, no matter how large, no matter how irresponsible. Senator Manchin, he's been standing in the way. Schumer is reportedly very angry with his colleague from West Virginia, but Manchin is literally stopping his own party from completely destroying the economy, which is kind of on the verge of collapse as it is. It's about time because the American people have seen enough. Look for yourself.
Do you approve of President Biden's job performance? Well, look at how bad these numbers are for the president. Only 4 in 10 Americans, 41% at the moment, approve of his job performance. Nearly 6 in 10, 58% disapprove. That's a tough number early in a midterm election year for the president of the United States. Now, why is this happening? This is fascinating. We asked people, what has President Biden done for you that you approve of? 56% of Americans, nearly 6 in 10 Americans, that means a decent amount of Democrats said nothing. They disapprove of everything that has happened.
Even fake news CNN says nearly 60% of Americans think Joe Biden has done absolutely nothing right, nothing at all. Now, with the midterms fast approaching, Joe's fellow Democrats, they're trying to pull a fast one on you. They're trying to turn 180 on almost every issue. COVID-19 mandates, all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, when Republicans were doing it, it was a disaster. It was irresponsible. They were going to kill people. Now, all of a sudden, they agree with those Republican governors, and they are now following suit. And, of course, schools, they're saying we need to open the schools back as soon as possible. And most of the talk about climate change and socialism and New Green Dealism and, oh, that's right, packing the courts and D.C. statehood, all of a sudden, now all that talk has gone away. Even Beto Bozo Francis O'Rourke, who vowed to confiscate guns, damn right we're going to take your guns in Texas, as late as 2021, he's now vowing to protect and cherish the Second Amendment. Okay, watch.
Americans who own AR-15s, AK-47s, will have to sell them to the government. I fully expect our fellow Americans to turn in their AR-15s and their AK-47s.
Are you, in fact, in favor of gun confiscation?
Yes. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
I'm not interested in taking anything from anyone. What I want to make sure that we do is defend the Second Amendment.
Hell yes. Now we're going to defend the Second Amendment. Like almost every other Democrat in the country, you got to understand what's happening here. They're only changing their opinions because of politics, and they love their power. That is more important than anything else, even, for example, compromising every so-called principle they have. The base of the Democratic Party is filled to the brim with actual socialists. Most Democrats don't actually have any firm beliefs at all. They just do whatever they think will make them popular, increase their political power, get them reelected. But they can't rewrite history. No amount of smoke and mirrors and flip-flops can change reality. Joe Biden, he caused America's terrible 40-year high inflation. Joe Biden literally has once again made us dependent on energy, the lifeblood of our economy, killed the Keystone XL pipeline, restricted oil and gas drilling all over and exploration all over. Joe Biden caused the crisis at the southern border. It was easily preventable. Joe Biden abandoned Americans in Afghanistan, and buckle up, because Biden is about to abandon more Americans abroad in Ukraine. They're even telling us that. Look.
What are your plans toward American citizens who are in Ukraine and might be there during an invasion? What scenarios would you put American troops to rescue and get Americans out?
There's not. That's a world war. When Americans and Russians start shooting at one another, we're in a very different world than we've ever been in.
Not even on behalf of simply evacuating Americans.
No. How do you do that? How do you even find them? This is not like, I'm hoping that if, in fact, he's foolish enough to go in, he's smart enough not to, in fact, do anything that would negatively impact on American citizens. But
have you told him that?
Yes.
You've told him that Americans will be a line that they can't cross?
Well, I didn't have to tell him that.
Yeah, this is the guy that said we had all the leverage against the Taliban and abandoned Americans there, and nobody talks about it but this show. Maybe a couple others. Now, when you think it can't get any worse at the White House, think again, because Joe Biden is probably, not trying to be rude here, but one of the dumbest, least capable presidents we've ever had. His cognitive decline is precipitous at this point. Now Joe is steering the country right off a cliff abroad and right here at home. And never forget, it was Biden, along with his many Democratic colleagues, who called for the police to be defunded and dismantled. They're now trying to rewrite history on this also. You may remember. Take a look.
Yes, I support the defund movement, because this is about the investment in our communities, which have historically been divested.
One that I'm actively engaged in advocacy for, is the reduction of, really truly talking about the reduction of our NYPD budget and defunding a $6 billion NYPD budget.
This model of saying, not only do we need to defund, but we need to dismantle and start anew, allows us to really reimagine what public safety should look like in our community.
You know, in many cities in America, over 1/3 of their city budget goes to police. So we have to have this conversation. What are we doing?
The last thing you need is an up-armored Humvee coming into a neighborhood. It's like the military invading. They don't know anybody. They become the enemy. They're supposed to be protecting these people. So my generic point is that...
Do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, we'll redirect the funding away from the police, and police become the enemy. Okay, like almost every other idiotic plan pushed by Democrats in the last 3 years. Well, the results on this have been catastrophic. Violent crime is soaring in every major city. And can you believe it? Democrats are pretending that they have nothing to do with the spike in crime. They want you to believe that it's totally out of their control. Again, they do not care about truth. They don't care about principles. They only want to say these things to get reelected and care about their power. To that end, a brand new bulletin from Biden's DHS warns that anyone who spreads misinformation about the U.S. government might be a terrorist. In other words, if you dare to disagree with the administration, you might be labeled a domestic terrorist by Mayorkas and his DHS. That is beyond chilling and dangerous. And by the way, you know, the summer of 2020, when all those riots took place that they ignored, when Democrats fully supported nationwide, mostly peaceful protests that killed dozens of people, injured thousands of cops, created billions in property damage, arson and looting. Well, those protests, we were told, were an important part of democracy, even when they were violent and deadly and costly. These same Democrats are now vilifying the real peaceful freedom convoy in Canada. There's no violence. There's no racism. In fact, far-left government officials across the border in Ontario, they have successfully frozen donations to the truckers in an effort to freeze them out so they can't get fuel for their trucks, so they can have heat inside of their cabins that they sleep in the back of their truck. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.